What's good, everybody? My name is Alckemy, and today we're going to be learning how to do this sound in Vital. Super phasey Reese, it's something that you probably heard done before, but it's pretty cool because for the most part, everything is done within Vital. There is a glue compressor at the end of this outside of the box, but other than that, everything is pretty much the same. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off all the effects, and then we will jump into the patch. One thing that I do want you all to be mindful of is before we get into like how all this stuff is made, whenever I'm doing this kind of thing, I kind of just want to make a point of like trying to get you to not try to copy what it is that I'm doing. I'd much rather you try to take the combination of effects and stuff and make your own version. And the reason why is because with these randomizers and stuff, like it's almost impossible to try to recreate the same thing. So don't get caught up in the values of how things work, whatever. Just be like, okay, well, I'm going to use this to add movement. I'm going to use this to kind of make a change over time or something. And I think that will set you off for a much better path. So what we do within this, and we just start with basic shapes. That's pretty much what I do for all my bass patches. I've allowed myself to get a little bit of vocoding on this with an FM oscillator being pushed in from oscillator 2. This is Additive Squish 2. It's a default preset. You can get more wavetables by Glork Clunk if you want, but you can pretty much use whatever you want. It's just, get something that has some rich harmonics, and then you want to add a little bit of movement via another randomizer to this. So this is moving and this is moving at the same time, which is already introducing some movement. Now on the first oscillator, there's two voices with a big detuning of 42%. You want to make sure that you turn the phase down so that way it gives you a little bit more consistency. And then finally, we've got another two-voiced saw wave that also has some detuning in order to kind of help establish a better fundamental, because without it, it kind of sounds kind of weak. So we want to make sure that we are doing what we can to like enforce a fundamental and have a good like solid bass. So I've gone and introduced a regular filter. It's just a notch band right here, and we've got movement on the cutoff, we have movement on the morph, and then we also have movement on the resonance. And then I'm also applying a little bit of drive. So that's making it thick and chunky, and everything is going into filter 1. Then when we get into filter 2, this is a Foreman aeonnhp filter, and you'll see that we've also got some randomized movement over here. So for the most part, what I'm doing is I'm modulating the peak, the mix, and the spread, and these are kind of just spread out between these modulators. So random 1 is going to all this stuff. You can take a snapshot if you want. Random 2 is going to all this stuff. Random 3 is going to all this stuff, and then random 4 is going to everything on the other side. But basically what I'm doing right here is like once I have a thick and chunky waveform, I'm cutting everything up in such a way so that way I'm getting as much movement out of this solid fundamental as possible. And once you kind of have that understanding, then this stuff will kind of make sense to you. Now in regards to the Foreman AOE, like if it becomes too much, then you can get some crazy peaks and all that. So I kind of just want this to like introduce itself just a little bit, if that makes sense. So onto the effects, the chorus, like man, this is one of the best chorus effects I've ever heard. But what you want to do with this is just kind of focus on the low mids and mid highs. And then you kind of just want to dial in a little bit of mix right there. So that way you get some cool movement. This EQ just has a little bit of low end boosted. I don't know why it's glitching out like that, but it's just a notch with low resonance. Then we get into our filter, which has all of these being moved as well. So it's kind of the same thing, that this is morphing, then I'm messing with the resonance and messing with the cutoff. And usually when I have a notch filter, I try to keep the notch kind of moving around like the low mid area. So anywhere from like 250 to maybe 800 hertz. So you'll see that this kind of stays in that low mid area. Now keep in mind that the movement again is coming from the randomizer, so you can kind of like set this up to do whatever it is that you want, but usually I just kind of go down a cycle. So if I put a randomizer on one thing, I'll use another randomizer for another, and then another randomizer for the other, and then just kind of cycle that back. So that way like some things still move together, but it's not the same parameters at the same time, if that makes sense. So next up we have some distortion. I'm just manipulating the cutoff and the mix right here. I don't know why these square things are doing what they're doing, but okay, whatever. And then finally we've got a little bit of multiband compression, and it will sound like this. The last thing that we're going to add to this is some reverb, and I'm just focusing on the mid region here with a pretty short time decay, and that's just going to give it a little bit of extra space. So speaking of space, if you look down here, the spread is turned all the way down, and then I'm using randomizer 3 to get just a little bit of movement here. And then if we go over to the advanced section, I have just an envelope 2 to give this just a little bit of a pitch bend right there, and that's pretty much it. Now this patch can definitely go further. There's a lot more that you can do with it if you really want to get intricate, but I think that this is a great starting point to figure out how to make sounds like this. If you want to cut it up more, just use more low pass filtering and then add an OTT at the end. If you want to get really crazy with your modulator stuff over here, then start messing with some of the parameters that these randomizers are into. And then finally, like one other thing that might be cool for you is to mess with some of the unisons on here and then add randomizers to that with just a little bit of taste. But I kind of just wanted to give you guys a jump off point of a cool bass that doesn't take a whole lot of effort to make. By the time you get over this stuff, if I turn off the glue compressor, it's going to be pretty quiet. So you can substitute this with a limiter or even distortion like a saturator and a limiter, and then just kind of pump everything back up. Set your pitch bend to 24 and then just mess with the pitch and you're good to go. So I would say that this is a great kind of, again, starting point. And because like we're limited with effects, like you can make the character of this more cool, but to get like actual tonalities and stuff, you want to start shaping that with external effects or whatever. But yeah, pretty much what I got for you guys today. Enjoy Vital. Hope that you love this stuff. Be sure to interact with my content as I always appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video.